everyone, and welcome to our first Q&A here on YouTube. In this Q&A we will answer your questions about our 2 hitchhiking journeys that we have done and that we have shared with you here on YouTube.
When we asked you to send your questions on Instagram and YouTube, we didn't expect to get so many, so a massive thanks up for that. So let's get started.
The first question that we will answer today comes from Lydia Hisa and The Journey, and they both want to know how and where Alex and I met. So this is how it happened. Between 2008 and 2010 I was living in the south of Spain in Malaga, and after 2 years there I needed a change, so I got myself a job in a hostel in Seville and I moved there.
At the same time I was studying in university in England, and I was actually studying Spanish, so I went to the south of Spain to Seville to do my Erasmus year of study and also work, and I met Marlin in the hostel where I was staying.
Where I was working. And at the time Alex was 22 and I was 32 years old, so you can imagine how I felt, or how confused I felt, when this 22-year-old was hitting on me and wanted to take me out for drinks and food, etc. So, how was I easy to get?
Oh, it took a lot of persuasion, you know. Persistence wins them over every time, right?
And Alex eventually got quite annoyed, I think, because he kept asking me out and I answered like, yeah, we can go out, but as friends, and I brought other people along because I felt uncomfortable and I wasn't sure, and so on. And then one night we were out with some friends and there was this very young Italian girl, I think she was maybe 19, better age for him, and he was kind of hitting on her, and I felt a bit jealous and I couldn't figure out why. So I went home that night and I was quite annoyed, and I don't know, a couple of weeks later we were a couple, and even a few weeks after that we lived together. Yeah. It happened really fast in the end, and here we are 8 years later and we're married. Ooh.
The next question comes from a Budgeteers, and they want to know, what do you guys do when you're not having amazing adventures? So for the last 5 years we've been teaching English in academies in Spain and in Thailand, and public school, summer courses in England and online. And as well as that, we like doing voluntary work when we can, so we've been teaching English to ethnic minorities from Myanmar in Thailand. Yeah, so we've done quite a lot of stuff in our free time.
And we have also worked with rescue dogs and rescue cats and many other things. And currently Alex is teaching online just to cover our costs while traveling, and I'm editing our videos. Question number 3 comes from Say It Right and The Journey, and they want to know what and who inspired us to hitchhike across the world. About 3 years ago we watched an amateur documentary on Vimeo by a German guy who intended, together with his friend, to cycle all the way from Germany to Papua New Guinea. But they got stuck in India and they went separate ways, and he decided to instead hitchhike all the way to Europe. And he was on his own, he had a lot of struggles on the way, but he also showed how humans are kind and generous all over the world. So that was the first thing that inspired us. We will link to his documentary down here.
The second reason we decided to do this journey was the Budgeteers. Now if you haven't checked out their channel, really awesome, we will leave a link up here, you should definitely go and check them out. In their first series they hitchhiked around Southeast Asia, and this was the inspiration for us to start this journey in Thailand originally, before we started hitchhiking back to Europe. And when we did this journey, we wanted to see how far we could get on the kindness and generosity of people around the world, and also show people that the world is an amazing place full of really, really nice people. The next question comes from Puri and Sue and Some Guy on a Journey, and they want to know what we have in our backpacks, how much they weigh, and what are the essential items for hitchhiking.
So we got 4 bags. We got the 2 main backpacks, the big ones that we carry on our backs, and then we have 2 smaller backpacks, day packs, that we carry on our fronts.
Well, as well as that, we also carry a ukulele.
Yeah, that's true actually.
In my bag, okay, in my bag we have a sleeping bag each, obviously, so I have my sleeping bag, which is a little bit heavier. I have the cooking stuff, I have the tent, we have our sleeping mats, so I have my sleeping mat anyway. What else do we have?
We've got clothes for colder weather, because we're not only traveling through warm weathers, we might go up in the mountains sometimes where it actually goes down to quite cool temperatures, hence our sleeping bags that are quite big and warm. And we also have summer clothing, we have shoes, we normally wear them on our feet, flip-flops.
Where else do you wear them? On your head?
Yeah, on my head. What else do we have in our bags?
We also have a special little shovel But you know, when you're camping, you need to be responsible. Some people just camp and they go and have a dump anywhere they like. Very nicely put. But it's really important that you make a hole before you go to the toilet and fill it in afterwards, because it's not nice to walk around and see poo everywhere, to be honest.
We have cheated a few times though, when it's been really hard ground and we couldn't dig. But what else is in our bag that is important? In our front bags we have our electronics, most of it anyway. Our computers, obviously, our power banks, we've got external hard drives, we've got food, but that's also in the big bag and in the small bag. We've gotten a lot of comments generally on YouTube asking like, why are your bags so big? Like, I can say that mine is not. So getting to the question and answering how much our bags weigh, my bag probably weighs, depending on if I carry food or camping gas or not, somewhere between 12 and 14 kilos. And you have to remember then that I've got sleeping mats, sleeping bag and all these sorts of things in there as well. If we travel in Southeast Asia only, our bags would be several kilos lighter.
In my bag is, it depends, it's usually maybe between 20 and 21, and then we have to add on a front bag, which is also about 5 or 6 kilos, because we've got a heavy laptop in there, all the electronics, cameras, yeah, so it gets kind of heavy in the end.
And the reason that Alex's bag is that heavy when we're on the road is actually because he's carrying a lot of food, because sometimes we are on the road for many days and we don't know if we're going to get in a supermarket or be able to buy the supplies that we need for our journey. So that weighs. Okay. It's quite heavy.
And essential items for hitchhiking. Okay, a tent, a sleeping mat, preferably inflatable because it's much more comfortable.
That's for camping, that's not so much for hitchhiking, Alex. Hitchhiking would be your thumb.
Yeah.
Plenty of water.
Plenty of water, a thumb, a big smile. Obviously, if you look like you're a miserable bastard, no one's going to pick you up. So look happy, look smiley, and people are most likely to stop for you.
Yeah, so you don't really need any special items for hitchhiking, but if you want to add camping onto your hitchhiking, that, yeah, you need your camping stuff, obviously. So I think that's answered that question, maybe.
One more thing, obviously when you're hitchhiking, sometimes it's really helpful to have a sign. So always try to have a piece of cardboard with you, a backup piece of cardboard as well in case you change your mind and where you want to go, and a good set of marker pens. It could be black, blue, red, make it colourful, you know, make it catch people's attention. The next questions come from Pachirai Meta and Some Guy on a Journey, and they want to know how we manage our finances on such a long trip and what our daily budget is.
So how do we manage our finances on such a long trip? Well, before we went to Thailand in December 2016 to spend 5 months there, that was before we came up with the idea of hitchhiking back to Europe, but I'll get back to that. We had about 7,000 euros. We had money left over from a previous trip and we saved up some money in Spain. And we managed to live on 2,000 euros for 5 months between the two of us in Thailand for 5 months. And we did that by volunteering, by staying in very cheap places, eating in cheap local little restaurants, etc. And we really are cheapskates, and we don't drink alcohol, not very often anyway. So when we started our journey back to Europe, we had 5,000 euros between us.
Yeah, and this is where it kind of gets interesting, because on average throughout the whole trip back to Europe, we spent per day around 17 euros on average, and this is including in Laos, China, and half of Kyrgyzstan. We stayed in hotels, guest houses, and obviously that makes it more expensive. But once we left Kyrgyzstan and went into Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, all these countries all the way back to Thailand, actually I think we only stayed in paid accommodation about 5 times. The rest of the time we did couch surfing and wild camping. So on those days you can imagine our budget was pretty cheap actually. It was like up to 10 euros in a day, some days like 2 or 3 euros, because in Turkey and some countries people are super generous and invite you for lunch all the time. It's quite impressive, and as much as you try to pay, you'll end up offending them and it won't happen anyway. So yeah.
And in series 2 we spent 6 weeks in Turkey, and I think we spent less than 300 euros between the two of us in these 6 weeks. It's absolutely amazing. I think we paid for accommodation once.
No.
Once, right?
Once for 2 nights.
Once for 2 nights we paid for accommodation, and that came with food included, so it was a good deal as it was. Turkey's amazing that way. So yeah, that's our daily budget. We don't really have a daily budget. We just try not to spend our money, and don't drink alcohol. That's when your money goes. out the window. The traveler said wants to know if it's a pain to exchange local currencies.
Well, to answer this, not really, because generally we try to withdraw the amount of money that we think we're going to use in the country, and most of the time we have a little bit left over, and we've found the best way to get the best exchange rate for your currency when you want to change to the next country is to do it before you leave the country. So for example, in Albania, we didn't exchange our currency before we left. It was about 15 euros worth, and when we went into Montenegro, the next country, actually they wouldn't even exchange it. They didn't, there was no option to do it. So
yeah, because there are some currencies that you can't change outside of that particular country. There are very few of those countries, but it happens. And this of course brings us back to our daily budget. That's how we kept our budget. We decided what we would spend for 2 weeks in this country, for example. So we spent a couple of weeks, I think 10 days in Georgia, for an example, and we decided, okay, how much do we think we will spend here, or how much do we allow ourselves to spend here, and that's what we withdrew. And most of the time we managed, because we had to. Next question. Say It Right wants to know what we do while waiting for cars on the road. And around the good world, he wants to know what is the longest we've ever had to wait to get picked up.
So we don't actually often have to wait for too long for rides. Many of the countries we went through, you know, the waiting time is between 0 minutes and 15 minutes, which doesn't give you much of an opportunity to do stuff. But when we do have those longer waits, sometimes we like to get the ukulele out, or we like to do a little dance, come up with a song or something, just to keep ourselves amused really. And for really long waits, yeah, it just gets kind of frustrating. So maybe you can do a song, whatever you want really, whatever makes you feel better about your wait.
So our longest wait ever was in the north of Italy. Got to a petrol station, waited for a long time, walked around asking people in Italian, or Alice asked around, where are you going, how are you? And people looked at us like as if we were homeless people. It felt really horrible. We have never felt that anywhere else but in the north of Italy. And finally, I don't know after how many hours, a couple of hours, we got picked up by an Italian guy who has hitchhiked in the past, so that was really nice, and he dropped us off at another petrol station, and that's where it all went wrong. We couldn't get picked up, there weren't many cars, they were all just going into the nearest city, they were actually not going to go onto the motorway, and we couldn't get picked up, and it was really late already. Eventually we met this truck driver. He was from Romania, but he lives in Spain, and his truck was parked there because it was a weekend and they can't drive their trucks on the roads in Italy on the weekends, and he let us sleep in the back of his truck. And in total we spent over 16 hours in that petrol station, and the next day we actually decided to take a train to France.
The next question comes from One Shot Adventures, and they want to know where and when our first time hitching a ride was.
So my first time hitching a ride was actually when I was about 15 or 16, but it doesn't really count because it was a very short ride and I didn't really properly hitchhike. So how did we do it?
So the first time we did it, we had to walk for about 30 minutes to get to the motorway outside of Ayutthaya. And when we first got to the road, we put our bags down and a guy came on a bicycle, an older guy, and he decided to have a chat with us for like 25 minutes. And it kind of really made us start hitchhiking. A little bit difficult because obviously cars couldn't stop, or just thought we were having a chat with someone. Anyway, when we did eventually get our first ride, a really nice lady stopped. She worked in a school, so she spoke good English. Yeah, it was a nice experience actually. It was a good start to the day.
Yeah, and she only stopped like a few minutes after that guy on the bicycle had left, so it was very good. Hitchhiking in Thailand can be a little bit tricky because they don't understand the concept of hitchhiking. They do pick you up, everyone stops, everyone wants to help you, but we actually had a hitchhiking letter that a Thai friend of us had written, and where it explained what we were doing, and that we didn't want to go to a bus station or a train station, that we wanted to go in their car as far as they could take us. And it actually helped most of the time.
Say It Right wants to know which country is the easiest to hitchhike in Europe.
So we haven't really hitchhiked through too many European countries. We went through the Balkan, Greece, Albania, Montenegro, Bosnia, Slovenia, France, Italy and Spain were the European countries we went through, I think. And out of them I must say that Albania was the easiest one, for us anyway.
Yeah. But if we're talking about globally and the countries that we travelled through in Series 1 and Series 2, I think the countries that are the easiest have to be Georgia, Armenia and Turkey, not in any particular order, but yeah, just in these countries you will probably have to wait no longer than 10 minutes, ever, basically.
In Armenia we often waited for like a minute, or not even that, or they stopped without us sticking our thumbs out. It happened quite a few times. Central Asia is also easy, but it's very, very common with shared taxis there, shared private taxis, so you might be asked for money, so that way it might take a while if you really want to get that free ride.
And in Armenia, literally, I mean, you saw in the videos in the second series, we'd stick a thumb out and Marlene's just got the camera out, and the first car stops, we're like, oh, we haven't even got time to film. So it's crazy, really amazing.
And some people just stopped to say hello because they were really interested in us, because we're foreigners. It was nice, it was really nice. Yeah. Alright, next question coming up. Hitchhiking India, Say It Right, The Journey and Jetty Albanerian. You all wanted to know what our best, worst or craziest or most dangerous hitchhiking experience has been.
We have so many amazing experiences hitchhiking. It's hard to kind of put it into one amazing thing. I mean, there are so many. So I guess one of the really amazing things was in Kazakhstan when we got picked up by 3 Turkish truck drivers, and they took us for 4 days in their truck across the Kazakh steppe.
Originally 3 days, but we ended up another full day with them because they decided to go all the way to where we were actually going to catch the ferry to Azerbaijan. I mean, not much happened in that truck, but it was such an amazing experience because we had to cross the desert and we didn't know if we were going to make it because there's no traffic and big potholes everywhere and it's really slow, so they were really our heroes.
Not only that, they gave us food, they gave us tea every day. Yeah, they were super nice, super nice.
And they were kind of our introduction to Turkey, and we came to spend a lot of time in Turkey in Series 2.
So what are our craziest and scariest experiences? Well, I guess this has to be in Georgia.
Anytime in Georgia. If you have ever been to Georgia, you know that they drive like crazy there. Everyone is a rally drivers, and there were so many times that we thought that we were seriously gonna die or have an accident, and we were quite close a few times, both in Series 1 and in Series 2. So think about that. If you ever want to go hitchhiking in Georgia, it is a hitchhiking paradise. Everyone stops. You don't have to wait for very long. But most of the times there are no seat belts and they drive like crazy. We are just lucky that we never actually had an accident, I think.
And would you like to tell our viewers about the worst experience, Marlene?
Well, my worst experience happened in the southeast of Turkey. It was the end of our time in Turkey. It was episode 13, if you want to check it out, up here. We're up here, where is it?
Somewhere.
Somewhere, up here. And look, we've been in total in over 400 cars throughout Series 1 and Series 2. And I've never felt threatened, I've never felt like anybody treated me differently because I'm a woman and so on. But in episode 13, in Series 2, we got picked up outside of Mardin by, I would say, older guy. He was probably in his early 50s or something like that, or late 40s. And I didn't get the best vibe from him. It wasn't like he did anything, he just seemed a bit grumpy, and yeah, like I didn't get any good energies from him. But he wanted to take us to see some old church ruins. I don't know what church ruins, doesn't matter, some ruins. It was just after he picked us up. So we went up there and there was another guy up there as well who was taking care of that place, the ruins, looked after them. And it was really hot and I had just had food poisoning, so I didn't have much energy. So after walking around there for about 20 minutes, this guy, he was also quite large, he decided he didn't want to walk around anymore, and I was really tired and I said that. So he kind of said, but he couldn't speak English, but he kind of said like, wait here with me and we'll meet the other guys by the car. And so I did, but so I shouldn't have, because after a few minutes he wanted to have a selfie with my camera with me, and he stood really close to me, next to me, and he didn't grab my shoulder, he grabbed like my love handles, squeezed them quite hard when I was speaking to the camera. So I kind of stopped the filming really quickly, and then I started walking around taking photos, and he followed every step I took, and I got really uncomfortable, and I was like, oh, I might go and look for Alex now because this just doesn't feel right. I'm not sure if he would have done anything serious to me, but I felt very uncomfortable, and he definitely was stepping over the line. And so I started walking away, and he followed me and he grabbed my arm and he kind of stopped me. He didn't want me to go and find Alex, which was really weird. And luckily I'm a little bit fitter than him, so I took off and I called out Alex's name, and yeah, well, If you watch series 13, you will get a longer explanation.
Hold on, series 13?
No! If you watch episode 13 from series 2, you will see this happening actually. Not him grabbing me or that, but me coming up to Alex and telling him about it and how that day went on after that. Yeah,
it's really sad to have a bad experience, but I guess the law of averages, you're going over 400 vehicles, eventually maybe something's going to happen. But we want to point out that it is pretty safe to hitchhike, and that's one person out of, I don't know, imagine we go in cars, there's not only one person in a car, so it could up to be like 600 people.
Yeah.
You know, one person 600, it's pretty slim. So, yeah.
And all other people have been really nice.
Yeah.
So this brings us on to the next question from Penguin Wanderlust, who wants to know how safe it is for a woman to travel solo. This is actually a pretty difficult question for me to answer because I haven't hitchhiked solo. I have traveled solo though, but only in Southeast Asia and mostly in Thailand, where it's really safe. I've never felt threatened in any way. When it comes to hitchhiking though, I'm not really sure. I do know other female hitchhikers who do hitchhike solo, and they don't really seem to run into any problems. I think we have a lot of we're quite misinformed about how it is to hitchhike. We all are very scared of strangers, especially in Europe. I don't know, it's a difficult question to answer. What do you guys think? Like, please leave your comments below, because I don't really have an answer to the question because I haven't hitchhiked on my own, only traveled solo in Southeast Asia. So leave them here, down here. Let's have a discussion about this because it's quite interesting.
So our subscriber Islamic Life, he wants to know, what do we do when we're in a situation where we need onwards ticket or return flights to get a visa or to get into a country? So when we were in Laos, we needed to get a Chinese visa, and to get a Chinese visa you need a return ticket in and out of a country. And to do this we went to an agency, a tour agency. They bought us some tickets which they then cancelled a few days later. And to get the Chinese visa you also need like hotel bookings, insurance, your bank statements, flights, yeah, a lot of stuff. But other than that, most countries have been pretty easy to go in and out of, with or without visas. Some countries you get visas on arrival. Countries like Azerbaijan and Turkey, for myself, I need to get an e-visa. Marlon needs to get that for Azerbaijan, not for Turkey though. So generally crossing borders is pretty easy for us, and that's also partly to do with where we're from. You know, I have a British passport, Marlon has a Swedish passport. If you're from different countries, unfortunately it really sucks, but different passports have different strengths, and it's really sad to say it, but we're kind of lucky to have the passports that we do.
So another question from Penguin Wanderlust, who wants to know how easy it would be to do a similar trip by renting a car.
So to do this trip in a rental car, I think is actually impossible. Within Europe, for sure it's possible, but when you're crossing borders such as China, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, crossing the Caspian Sea, unless you have your own car, it's very difficult. And also, if you want to take your car into China, we've heard that it costs 5,000 euros. That includes your guide that's going to be with you the whole time, watching everything you do.
I mean, the journey by car in such is possible because a lot of people do it. There are a lot of overlanding people out there. But to rent a car and to do this trip, I'm sorry to say that it's going to be very difficult unless you rent a new car in each country you go to.
Yeah.
So our dear friends, Journal of Nomads, want to know what we miss the most from home when we are on the road. So as you know, Alex and I are of different nationalities. Alex is British and I'm Swedish. So we don't have a home together and such, like we don't have a country where we have lived for a longer time together except for Spain. And I haven't lived in Sweden since 2008, and before that I was also traveling a lot. So I don't really miss much from home. I miss my family, obviously. I think we all do when we're away for a long time, but I don't miss any particular things. I don't really miss Swedish food either. If I'm ill, I might miss my mom's cooking, but that's about it. And my friends are all spread out, so even if I go home, I can't meet all of them anyway, because they are in different countries. They are in Spain, they are in Sweden, they're in different parts of Sweden, they're in South America, they're everywhere. So that's my answer.
So my answer is pretty much the same. Yeah, I miss my family, of course, but you know, today we have WhatsApp, FaceTime, Skype. It's really easy to see your family. It's not the same as getting a real hug, obviously. I miss, you know, the thing I miss the most? My mountain bike. Oh, I would love to go for a mountain bike ride somewhere around here where we are now, of course, but everywhere, all these places that we travel, they have amazing mountain ranges, and I always see these awesome trails, and I want to shred them, but obviously I can't because I've got my feet and it's a bit difficult to shred the ground with your feet when you don't have tyres. Sometimes we miss food from home, or just, you know, having the availability to cook. Often when we do couch surfing, we do get to cook, so that's pretty cool. And camping, you know, you've seen our camping food. Oh, I'm a master chef, and we have good coffee all the time, so yeah, don't miss too much. Just family, maybe some home comforts occasionally. That's about it.
Chris Vaughan wants to know which country out of all of the countries that we have traveled through is our favorite.
Again, this is a really difficult question. We've been through so many beautiful, amazing countries with lovely people, but for me, I don't know about you, you can tell me later, but for me, my favorite country I think has to be Kyrgyzstan. It's just so different. Everywhere you go is beautiful, and they live this kind of semi-nomadic lifestyle. You can see all these herds of horses, cows, sheep. It's just amazing, really, really amazing place, and just so different.
And it's so unexploited compared to other countries that we've been to. But one of our absolute favorite countries as well is Turkey, and that's the reason we spent 6 weeks there in series 2, because we fell completely in love with Turkey in series 1 when we spent 2 weeks there. The Turkish people are so freaking generous and kind, and hitchhiking there is very easy. You have to go back and watch all our Turkey videos because you will love them, and you're all gonna want to go to Turkey. Whatever you have heard about Turkey, don't listen to it. Don't listen to all the political crap that is going on, because the people are amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Antinia, a local lady we met in Kyrgyzstan in Tuktugul last year, she wants to know why we didn't make it to the World Nomad Games in Kyrgyzstan this year.
That was our goal, this journey. We were going to hitchhike from Turkey to Kyrgyzstan, but we changed our minds, and we'll tell you why in a sec. If you have watched the whole of series 2 or most of our episodes from series 2, you know that I've been having some health issues. I haven't been feeling very well. At the end of series 1, I started feeling very anxious, and then I spent 7 months in the UK feeling extremely anxious and got depressed, to be honest. And I couldn't really get out of that when we were traveling. And then there was a heat wave, and it was really hot, and all those things together, and some health issues that I have as well, kind of made me reconsider what was best for me at the moment. And that's when we started changing our plans.
So we spent a few weeks considering what we wanted to do. As you know from the videos, you know, it took a little bit of time to decide on what we wanted to do, and we decided that we couldn't continue this journey. It was just a bit too much for us, and we weren't in the right state of mind to finish it, which we were kind of sad about now, because when we looked back at footage of the World Nomad Games from Journal of Nomads, for example, they have a video about it. You should go and check that out. It looks absolutely amazing, like a once-in-a-lifetime thing to see. So hopefully in the next one we will go and see that. So the last question comes from somebody on YouTube. We don't know his or her name, but we do know their YouTube user number, name kind of thing. It's 98098HSDDDGS, okay? And they want to know what, or he or she or they, I don't know, want to know what do we envision ourselves doing in the future?
When we're older, he wrote specifically, he or she.
As you can tell, I want to be a monkey stuck in a spider's web. On a more serious note though, what do we envision ourselves doing in the future when we're old and grey and hairy?
Well, I've got like one grey hair, and I'm 40 years old already, and it's not an age where people expect you to be hitchhiking around the world. He's got a few grey hairs around here in his beard. He's only 30 though, and probably more of the age where you're expected to do something crazy like hitchhiking across the world. But yeah, we don't really know. I mean, we don't have children, and we probably won't have any children, so we're kind of free. We will probably try to find another way of supporting ourselves online apart from online teaching. And we're not making any money from YouTube at the moment, so not that at the moment anyway. Or maybe we will be massive on YouTube in the future, but I strongly doubt it. Strongly doubt it. There you go. There's the enthusiasm. Really know. Like we don't know. We can't really answer what we will do in the future when we're older, because I'm already considering myself old, and who knows what lays in the future for us. So
what you should do is keep following this channel, see what we get up to, and maybe the answer will come through this source of media.
we're gonna end this video here. We want to say a huge thank you to all of you for sending us all these amazing questions that made it possible for us to actually make this video. It's our first Q&A and we really hope that you liked it. If you did, please leave us a million thumbs up, but don't hit it more than once, that little like it button, because you might unlike it and that's not very good. And what else should they do? You need to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and if you have already, make sure you hit that notification button as well, and drop us a comment below if there's anything you have questions about from this question and answer video. Yeah, feel free to ask and we'll try to answer as best we can. Share it on social media. Can't say that too many times. We want more subscribers, so if you share this video with your friends, they might get inspired and start watching our videos and finally subscribe or unsubscribe or dislike it or whatever. Anything that gives us engagement on our channel is good. So we're gonna end it there. We still don't know how to end our videos, so we're gonna do the old traditional slap it. Are you ready? So time out. Both of us? No, only one at a time. Or we can do, I'll do it first. Right, you do it now. I think we're gonna do it together. Okay, 3, 2. Are you ready? Time out.